For this lesson, we're going to be working with the highlights and shadows of the basic form. So how do we work with the blending of our pencils that we had before, and now we're going to apply those to basic forms to make them look three-dimensional. I'm going to start with a sphere because it has that nice blending technique in it, and it's also very clear to create the highlights and the darker areas. To make my sphere, I'm going to start with just a juice cup. I'm going to turn it upside down so that way it can create a nice circle without having to draw it. And before I can add my values, I now need to figure out where my light source is coming from. So I'm going to have my light coming from the upper right. I'm just going to draw a little spotlight here. Okay, so there's my light source. And on my sphere, I know that where my highlight is where the light hits it directly. So before I do anything else, I'm going to lay in a very light layer of white in the area where my highlight is going to be. One of the tricks with color pencil is the first color that you put down on the paper tends to be the dominant one. So if I want an area lighter, if I layer in some white first, it will make that area lighter. Whereas if I put the color in first, then I will have that color and it won't be as light. Next thing I'm going to do, using my blue pencil, you can use any color you want, is I'm going to layer in a very light value, light pressure of that blue all the way across the sphere. All right. From here, I'm going to start putting in my different values and layering the lighter to the darker. And the reason I chose blue is because I have lots of different blues in my kit. I have 5 different blues that I can work with, as well as white and cream and my blending pencil. So I don't have to just use my one medium blue that I started with. I'm going to utilize my darker blues and my lighter blues, maybe not the green blue, but these other blues in order to start layering some of those values. So at this point, if I wanted to burnish with my blending pencil or even with this lighter blue or my medium blue, I could go ahead and burnish, but I also would like to have my shadow areas a little bit darker and not just with pressure. So there's a couple of ways I can make it darker. One of them is I could add a little bit of black to it, just in those little shadow areas, but a better way, a more natural way, is to use the complementary colors. And that is the color that is opposite of each other on the color wheel. So when I'm looking at blue, the opposite of blue is orange. So if I take my orange pencil and I very lightly layer in a little bit of orange, that is going to dull the blue down a little bit, and it is going to create a more natural shadow. I could also use a little bit of brown. So this looks like black, but it's not. It's the darker brown, and that will also help lay in a little bit shadow. And then I will layer in my blues again on top. And now I can go back and burnish. Like I said, I could either use my regular blue or my blending pencil or the white. I might go back and forth and kind of use all 3. All right. One of the tricks you will notice is that once you burnish, it's really difficult to go back and relayer your colors. So try and get them as close to the way that you want them as possible. You can go back and add a little touch-ups like I did, but you don't want to rely on burnishing every level. Make sure that you get it really close to what you want before you're adding that pressure. I'm also going to add a cast shadow to this one, which is just going to be an oval in this case. And it is going to be a little bit darker. So same thing, I am going to, instead of using black, I'm going to use those darker values, brown, maybe even some orange, and a lot of pressure right away. And there's the sphere. Now you'll need to do that with the 3 other basic forms, with a cube, a cylinder, and a cone.